Hey folks, today we're going to do worksheet 03, pH and pOH. Now this is going to be a lot of math, so I'm going to do a couple of problems for you with a calculator so you can actually see how to plug stuff into your calculator in case that's giving you a problem. But after that, you're going to have to do them on your own. Okay? So make sure you have written these equations down. If you did not write these down from the podcast, write them down now. You're not going to be able to do any of these problems without knowing these 6 equations. Alright, so let's look at what we can do here. Right. We are given our concentration of H. Now what we know with our concentration of OH, we know that our concentration of H times our concentration of OH is equal to 1 times 10 to the minus 14th. Right. Now since we know that, then if we are given the H, and we're given this thing, we can calculate the OH by saying that 1 times 10 to the minus 14th divided by our concentration of H, which is 1.34 times 10 to the minus 6th, should give us our answer. All right, so let's see how we actually do that on our calculator. All right, we take 1. Hello? 1. Talk to me. 1. 1. How about I turn it on? Am I on? Aha! There we go. There's my problem. Alright. So I take 1 times 10 to the minus 14th. So I do the second EE key. And then I do the minus. This is the minus sign down here. It's not the subtract sign. It's the minus sign. And it's going to be 14th. And it's going to be divided by 1.34, 1.34, and again times, so you do the second EE key, 10 to the minus 6th. Right. Now we're going to enter that, and we get 7.46 times 10 to the minus 9th. So 7.46 times 10 to the minus 9th. All right. So that's the first thing we have to do. Now, how do we get pH? Well, our equation for pH, if we go look at pH, it is the pH is equal to the negative log of our H concentration. All right. Well, how in the world do we do that on a calculator? Well, we have to do the negative. Notice that's your negative sign. So we do the negative, and we do the log. So we look around here for log, and you'll notice there's log, right? So negative log, and we're talking about this number because that is our concentration, okay? So we have to say negative log of 1.34, and again, this times 10 to something is always the second EE key, and it's going to be the minus 6th. So there's your minus 6, and then you end your parentheses, and you're done. And it's magic, and your answer is 5.87. All right, so, wait a minute, sorry, my bad, I'm in the wrong column. 5.87. Now, how do we figure out the pOH? Well, we could do exactly that same thing with this number, the 7.46 times 10 to the minus 9th, but frankly, I'm lazy. All right, and I know that my pH plus my pOH is equal to 14. So all I have to do is take 14 and subtract 5.87. So if I take 14 and I subtract 5.87, right, that gives me 8.13. So that's 8.13. Right. So now my question is this acidic or is it basic? Well, we always look at our pH, and our pH is less than 7, so this would be an acid. All right, that's your first one. Right. Using that same logic, you should be able to do the second one. When you solve for your H concentration, again, you're just going to take 1 times 10 to the minus 14th. I'll just do this one. This is going to be 1 times 10 raised to the minus 14th divided by 2.54 times 10 to the minus 10th. When I do that math, minus 10th, that's a plus. Sorry. How do I get rid of just that one thing? How about minus 10.0? Alright, that'll work. Yeah, it didn't like that. Alright, let's try that again. 1 times 10 raised to the, that's my problem, putting in a times sign. 1 second e minus 14. Minus 14 divided by 2.54 times 10 to the second e minus 10. Right, and that gives me 3.93, 3.94 times 10 to the minus 5th. All right, so I'm going to come over here and say 3.94 times 10 to the minus 5th. Right, so now the question is, what's my pH? Well, I'll just take that number, right, and all I have to do is take the negative log of that. So I'm going to take the negative log of 3.94, and that's going to give me, sorry, I made a mistake, negative log of 3.54 second EE, because it has to be times 10 to the minus 5. It's like you kind of missed that, Skip. Right? That's much, much better. So that is 4.45. 4.45, which is my pH. You know, it would be better if I did my number right. That's 2.54. So I'm close. Let's try it again. Negative log. There we go. Thank you. Negative log of 2.5 of 3.94. 3.94. It helps if you type the right number, doesn't it? Second EE minus 5. There's my correct answer, 4.40. 40. Now, what in the world is my pOH? Well, it's 14 minus that number, and 14 minus 4.40, I don't need a calculator for that. That's 9.60. So that's my pOH. And so since my pH is less than 7, then that's going to be an acid as well. All right. I do want to do a couple more because now all of a sudden we're starting with pH and we have to work the other way. So I want you to see what that is. So if my pH is 2.6, again, I can just subtract that from 14. That's 11.4 is my pOH. So that doesn't take much. 2.6 is definitely an acid because it's less than 7. My pH is less than 7. I don't have to worry about my pOH. I just look at my pH and determine it's less than 7. Now, how in the world do I go over here to this guy? All right, well, the way I go over to that guy is I do the reverse of the log, which is, notice it's this 10 to the x thing here. Right? That's what I want to do is I want to raise 10. Let's go second so you can see this. All right, that's 10 to the, and what I want to do is I don't want to do it to the 2.6. I want to do it to the negative 2.6. That's 26. Skip. How about 2.6? There we go. All right, so 10 raised to the negative 2.6 is going to be 0.0025. Well, if you put that in scientific notation, and you can force your calculator to do that, by the way, you can do mode scientific notation, which is there. Come on, you can do that. How about you go there? Okay, enter. Enter. Okay. All right. So if I do that, let's say times 1, let's see what happens. Does it switch it? Yeah, it does. So it's 2.51 times 10 to the minus 3. So it's 2, and since we only have 2 sig figs, 2.5 times 10 to the minus 3. Right? Now, how do I figure out my OH. Well, again, I can take this number, just like we've been doing all along up here, and say, and do the division, or, frankly, it's easier for me to do this 11.4, and what I can do with the 11.4 is just, again, so that you see it a second time, we go second, 10 to the x, and I go to negative 11.4, and I enter, and it's going to be 3.98 or 4.0 times 10, 4.0 times 10 to the minus 12th. Right? I could have done it the other way, and I still would have come up with the same answer. Right? So if you would please pause the video, make sure you can do the one that's right below here. Right? And I'm just going to write down the answers since you've already seen me do that one. So I'm not going to waste your time going through that entire thing all over again. Alright, so your answer's here. I subtract this from 14, and I get 8.1. 8.1 is definitely a base. Now, it's real close to being neutral, but it is still a base. Remember that neutral is 7. So if I get probably between 6 and 8, I'd probably say it was pretty neutral. Alright. My pH and my pOH, this is 7.9 times 10 to the minus 9th, and this is 1.3 times 10 to the minus 6th. Okay, so let's go on to our next page. All right, there are certain things that I can do pretty easily, and I just look at things and say, well, what can I do? Well, the pH and pOH to me are really, really easy. So I tend to do them first, just because they are real easy for me to understand. Right, so I see here that my pH is 12.5, so I subtract that from 14, and I get 1.5 as my pOH. I have 2.89 here, that gives me 11.1 over here, or so, 11.11. 11.11 and 12.5 are both bases. Right. Now remember, what I have to do to go from these numbers to these numbers is if I take the 12.5, if I go 10 to the negative 12.5, if I raise it to the negative 12.5, that's going to give me 3.16. Sorry, I lost my cursor. 3.16 times 10 to the minus 13th. Now, if I divide that by, so let's just see what happens. I'm going to do the same thing with the 1.5. Again, I'll just show it to you once. Right? You go, well, we got to turn this on first. All right, we go second, 10 to, and it's going to be to the negative 1.5, 1.5, and you'll notice that that also comes up with 3.16, but this is 3.16 times 10 to the minus 2. All right. So, how about the rest of these? Well, these bottom ones we can figure out pretty easily in the same way we did the ones right above it. Times 10 to the minus 12th, and this is 1.29 times 10 to the minus 3. Now over here, remember, this is where we have to use the negative log to go over here. Now when we're figuring out these two numbers, we take 1 times 10 to the minus 14th, and we divide by whatever number we're given, which is 2.76 times 10 to the minus 1. Right? And just to kind of to refresh our memories, this is going to be 1 second EE minus 14 divided by 2.76 second EE minus 1. 2.76. Kind of messed that up, didn't you? 2.76 second EE minus 1. Okay, so that comes up as our pH. That definitely is not right. What did I not do right? Oh, I'm going to try it again because I know that's not right. Right, so it's 1 second EE minus 14 minus 14 1 second EE minus 14 divided by 2.76 7, 6, second, EE minus 1. I came up with the same answer. That's like, that pH doesn't make any sense to me. What did I do wrong? I know I must have done something wrong. Alright, it'll come to me. Oh, I'm not doing anything wrong. That's this number. I'm looking for a pH. Of course this is right. Okay, 3.62 times 10 to the minus 14th. I was thinking that was the pH, and why did I know that was wrong? Well, I knew it was wrong. This is a good thing to check. Notice my pH should be close to 1, and here my pOH should be close to 14. So that's why I was getting very confused, because I was looking for a number that was close to 1. All right, well, let's look at what our pH is. Remember how to get your pH. When you're getting your pH, you have to do the negative log. All right, so we come in and we do a negative log. So that's negative, and then we hit the log function, and then we have to type in our number, which is 2.76, second, exponent, minus 1. All right, now you'll notice that we got a number real close to 1, which is 0.559. So that number is close to 1, so that I could believe. Now remember, how do we get our pH? Well, we subtract our pOH is we subtract from 14. So let's kind of round that to 0.6. So if we subtract that from 14, we get 13.4 as our pOH. Right? Now that I could believe. Now, because our pH is way less than 7, this is acidic. In fact, this is extremely acidic. All right. So now let's go and do this one, just so that you've got some numbers here to flesh out what you've got. This is 1.08, and this is times 10 to the minus 13th. And that means this one's going to be close to 13, and in fact it is. And this one is real close to 1. Right? If your pH is 13, that's definitely very basic. All right. So let's keep going. That gives us that one. All right. I think this is the last set. Maybe, maybe not. No, it's not the last set. All right. I'm just going to put some numbers in here for you. This is 2.90 times 10 to the minus 8th. Our pH here is 6.46, and our pOH is 7.54. Now, again, notice that when I always check to make sure I'm close to 7, I'm close to 8. Yeah, that's pretty much right. And a pH of 6.46, it is acidic because it's less than 7, but it's real close to being neutral. So you could say it's almost neutral, all right, when you do this one. All right, let's look at this one, which is 2.75 times 10 to the minus 6. That means this is going to be 3.63 times 10 to the minus 9th. That means this is 8.44. 8.44 is going to be basic. 5.56 is your pOH, so that's a base. Now, let's look at this number, and let's look at this number. Gee, isn't that interesting? They're real close together, so that tells you my pOH, remember you're subtracting from 14, is going to be 8.45. So that tells you these numbers are pretty much reversing, just like those two numbers were. And in fact, that's exactly what you find. If you do the math, you come out with 2.82 times 10 to the minus 6th, and you come up with 3.55 times 10 to the minus 9th. So again, those, you're just crossing your pH and your pOH. So that tells you if this one was basic, this one had better be an acid, and it certainly is. It's less than 7, so it's an acid. Right. How about this last one? 4.67 times 10 to the minus 8th. We take 1 times 10 to the minus 14th and divide it by that number, and you get 2.14 times 10 to the minus 7th. Now, we do the, to come up with the pH, we do the negative logs, and we come up with 7.33, and we come up with 6.67 when we subtract that from 14. 7.33 is pretty neutral. So we could say it's slightly basic, but really it is very close to neutral. All right. This is the last page. Now, I happen to like this one because what happens when you have a pH of 14? It means you have a pOH of 0. That's real easy. 1, that means you have to have a pH of 13. If you have 7, you have 7 over here. This is completely neutral. 13 is very basic. 14 is very basic. All right, and this one, well, we're going to have to figure it out. All right, but I can just look at it and say, well, if that one's 11, that one's got to be about -3. That means my pH is going to be 3. That means this is going to be an acid. So I'm predicting my pH is going to be about 3. So let's go see what happens. Well, if we take this number and we do the 1 times 10 to the -14th and divide by this number, we get 3.92 times 10 to the -4. Should have a pH close to 4. All right, so let's actually come up with something. And if we do this and we do the negative log, we come up with 3.41. Remember I said your pH was going to be about 3? Your pOH, you're subtracting from 14, you get 10.6. That's definitely acidic. Now, I don't need to do any math over here. This is going to be 1 times 10 to the -14th. This is going to be 1 times 10 to the 0. Right? Extremely basic. This is going to be 1 times 10 to the -13th. Now, you want to plug it in your calculator, you can do that. But when you look at these numbers, remember, if this is a -13, then your pH is going to be a 13. And down here, this last one is really easy. These are both 1 times 10 to the -7. All right, folks, that's it. I hope that helped a little bit. Practice with your calculator. And if you need help, please give one of us a shout. We'll be happy to help you. Take care. See you in class. Bye-bye. Whoa, there's a whole other page. No, there wasn't. Really? Hold on. Let me look. There wasn't another page. I made that up. Ignore that. Have a good one. See ya. Bye.